I can aim with this monstrosity of a crosshair on Hella pretty consistently. And I'm going to give you guys brutally honest advice so that you can master your aim in this episode of Shoddy's Yap Session. And if you guys are new here, this is the series where I yap about a topic and you turn me on in the background while you do something else. Or, if you really want to, you can watch the mid-gameplay. Let's get right into it. Now, first to start, if you guys like free stuff and you want help more maybe on the game sense side, coaching, scrims, or just to find people to play with, you can get an entire month for free at Gosu Academy with the top link in the description. Now, let's get into the first brutal truth, which is aim is just hand-eye coordination. But 90% of people do not train the eye part at all. There's a lot of ways you can train your eyes. When I was younger, I used to try everything because when I'd play, it feels like, oh, I can see the target, I know where they are, but every time I try to kill them or shoot at them or anything, I feel like I'm on the target, and I never am. It's like there's a disconnect between my hand and my eye. So I used to try eye stretches, I used to try different practice routines, and the best thing I found so far was eye stretches or eye warm-ups, which I'm going to link in the description. One of them is one that you literally just do certain stretches for your eyes, and I found it helps with headaches, and it helps me feel a lot more alert. And if you're worried about, oh, well, it takes so long, most of these take in total, everything will take 5 minutes at most. So for better eye health and better aim, 5 minutes is pretty good. But the other video is different maps that move around, and it's balls and targets and all that will move around. You can track them with your eyes and just your eyes. So whenever you use it, just make sure you're sitting in one spot the same way you play when you play video games, and just don't move. Just sit there, chill, and use only your eyes to track the target. And the other thing I used to practice was I would go into a game that maybe had a practice range, or I would use certain aim trainers such as Kovacs or Aim Labs. And what I'll do is I'll go to a place that has only one target on my screen, and I'll put my crosshair somewhere away from them. Then I'll focus really hard on my crosshair, trying to only aim at the enemy, or when I get more advanced, multiple enemies, with only my peripheral, meaning that I'm not actually looking at them with my eyes, but I know where they are because I've trained my peripheral vision. Now, you'll get better at this with time, but it helps a ton with speedrunning improvement. And all the videos that I mentioned will all also be in my Discord server. So if you guys want to check that out, you can join my Discord. And the second point is getting way above average aim takes way below average effort to obtain. And what I mean is, look around you, right? Unless you surround yourself with better players or people who've been playing a long time, most people don't really have that good of aim, and most people don't actually know what good aim looks like, because good aim for someone who's never trained it versus good aim for someone who has are two different conversations. And I can give you an example. One of the people I coached before, and if you didn't know, I coach aim. One of the people I coached before was brand new to PC, and in about a month, he went from, I think he was bronze, or what is it, iron? Yeah, he was iron in Valorant, which is a pretty aim-intensive game. And in no time, he was ranking up like crazy, and all of his scores on Kovacs, which is an aim trainer if you didn't know, were skyrocketing. He was above average in about a month and a half. And this was with on and off training because he has a real life, you know what I mean? And he was still able to do this. So if you, with a little bit of guidance from my videos or whatever, tried practicing, especially since you have experience on a PC, unlike he did. Well, some of you do. And by the way, this also works for controller, but for controller, just know, controller is more about sensitivity, learning how to control a really fast sensitivity, because controller is limited by the range of motion that your stick can move in. So what I tell everyone is, if you have a longer stick, you actually have much more precision you can make with your aim. So get a stick extender like Control Freaks or whatever else, or like pro controllers or whatever have that, and practice making your sensitivity faster and faster so that you learn how to control it. And after you've mastered that, you've basically peaked on how much aim training you can do on controller, but it takes a very long time to be able to master really fast sensitivity. So you'll have a lot of practice to make, and you'll have plenty of time to practice. But yeah, training your aim is not very hard, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. And by the end of this video, I'll also be giving you guys a practice range routine so you can train your aim in Marvel Rivals. And now the next point is great aim will get you out of most ranks in FPS games, or I guess third-person shooter games as well. Most people like to talk about, oh, well, no, aim isn't that important. Just play the game, just do this, just do that. And I agree. Game sense and playing the game are more important than just sitting there grinding an aim trainer or sitting in the practice range for hours. But there are also people like me, which maybe I'll post the account or something. I don't know. This is a Yap session. You're not supposed to be watching anyways. But I took an account just solo queuing. Sometimes I duo queued or trio queued, but most of it was solo queue. And I played Hella, and I had like a 7 KDA with 93% win rate up to GM2. That's like all aim. I wasn't really turning my brain on to like, oh, well, no, I have to position or I have to do this. Most of it was aim. I would say 90% was aim. So with good aim, and mind you, I haven't trained my aim in months now. I stopped training it at all because I hit a level I'm comfortable with, and working on this channel and these videos and all that takes too much of my time. But just that was an insane difference. All the practice I did before, which if you add up how much time I spent actually practicing, I think the total was like 100 hours. And most of that time was unguided time. Like I would say 40 hours of that was me learning what to do. Another like 40 was me actually knowing what to do. And 20 was like, I'm playing for fun. But 40 real hours of practice, 40 guided hours of practice is all it took for me to get to this level of aim. And I'm at such a level that, actually, that's perfect to talk about. Most people misunderstand the point of practicing your aim, or the point of practice in general. Practice and aim practice isn't about, if I practice this, I'm going to be at this level all the time, or I'm going to be, let's say my aim is pro level. It's not about getting my aim pro level all the time. It's about raising where my bottom level is. So for example, let's say in aim training, there are ranks, which a whole different video to talk about. But in aim training, there's ranks. And let's say I'm a Masters player, which will go to Plat, Diamond, Jade, Masters. Let's say I'm Masters for my high scores. That means, or what that meant for me, was that my baseline, when I play on a bad day, I'm Diamond level, right? When it used to be, I was Bronze level on a bad day. And it's all about raising that baseline so that even when you're playing terribly, you're playing above average. That's the whole point of practice. It's not about, I'm Himothy always. And that's also why people think they're funny. They're like, oh, well, look at this gameplay. That doesn't look like top 1% aim. Well, it's probably not. But if I was dialed, let's say, if I'm tryharding, if I'm really in the zone, it will be. But my bad day is other people's best day. And that's the goal. That's why you practice. Now, for more involved tips, people always ask about, how do I aim? How should I aim? And this simple fix can get you insane aim in no time with almost no effort, which is learning where to aim, where to look. We talked about earlier hand-eye coordination and training the eye part. Why would we train the eye part though? How should we be using our eyes in general? Now, the general rule I give people is when you're aiming, when the target's close to you, and let's think about a telescope. If you guys have ever looked through a telescope, or you know those paper towel rolls that we used to look through as kids? Those. If you looked through one of them, somebody that you're looking at that's far away looks like they're small and easy to see. You know, like that James Bond intro, the little straw, the little telescope looking at him. When he's really far away, he looks tiny. He looks manageable. He looks slow, controlled. But if someone went right by the opening of it, right at the front of it, it would look like they teleported by. All you would see is a blur. And that's exactly what it's like staring at your crosshair. So that's why I teach people, whenever your enemy is close to you or moving quickly, you want to stare at the enemy. Think about Psylocke being right in your face or Black Panther being right next to you. You want to look at Black Panther instead of looking at your crosshair trying to see how to aim at him. But when they're far away, let's say you're Hela and you're trying to snipe somebody, you want to be looking at the crosshair. So you can see, since the enemy can't move that much from a far distance, because one little movement for them is almost not noticeable for you. But this isn't always true. The truth is, just like I showed you guys at the start, me aiming with that Hela crosshair, there was no dot in the middle. There was nothing in the middle showing me where the center was. I basically had a giant tumor for a screen, for a crosshair. So how was I able to aim? And aim so accurately? Well, the main thing of it is, most better players and most professionals, the reason why you can see them make insane flicks and look like they just directly teleported to the enemy is because they look almost exclusively at the target, which is really hard for most people. I've gotten comments saying, oh, well, no duh, of course, you want to look at what you want to shoot at. And then when they try it, they feel like they're reading Chinese for the first time. Or I guess Mandarin or whatever. You get the idea. But it's not that easy. That's why I tell people that generalization first, because once you've gotten used to that, then you can convert to staring at the target exclusively. Because when you stare at the target, you get a better chance to read their movements, see what they're doing. And 90% of good players, or I'd say 99, you know where the center of your screen is. So you don't really need to use your crosshair. And if you guys ever watched Shroud play back in the day, on CSGO, he had this giant tumor blue crosshair. It was the ugliest thing ever, but he had great aim. But why? And it was because that crosshair wasn't about precision. It wasn't about helping him aim. It was helping him know where the center of his screen was. And if you ever seen really good aimers, a decent amount of them in games play with a pretty big crosshair because it just helps their eyes know, okay, there's the center. Let me just line it up. Now for the next point, when you're aiming, there's a lot of damage you can do to your body. And trust me, take it from me. My wrist still pops to this day, even after all the practice and workouts and this and that I've done to it. And I got a pretty beefy wrist, right? I've worked it out quite a bit. My dad used to teach me like arm wrestling workouts and stuff. So I've been training for a while on it. It's just, I ruined it so bad when I was younger that I really need some real physical therapy really consistently to fix it. But when you're aiming, people aim one of two ways usually. They usually like slow sensitivities and they use only their arm to aim, or they like fast sensitivities and they use only their wrist to aim. That's also why, if you've ever been around like older adults, there's a stigmatism around using a mouse. It's like, oh, you're going to ruin your wrist, or you're not supposed to sit on a computer too long because you're going to damage your wrist and this and that. It's because most people, especially like office workers, they don't get proper mouse space. And when you don't get proper mouse space, you're more prone to only use your wrist aim. And this will give you carpal tunnel as fast as possible. You're any percent speed running it. So in the description, I'm going to leave you guys a few links to wrist stretches, arm stretches, eye stretches, all that good stuff. And they also only take a few minutes a day and they help a ton. On top of that, you'll also feel a lot more smooth with your aim, because if you've ever aimed and you feel like your aim almost jumps at a target, it jitters towards somebody instead of being smooth and connected, it's usually because of this. It's because you have untrained wrists. Now, what if you're the arm aimer? Or honestly, either of them. You guys don't actually want to be using one or the other. If you only use your arm, you have no precision. If you only use your wrist, you have no speed. You have no dynamic range of your aim. So you want to practice using different sensitivities, which I know you heard different sensitivities. You guys are going to kill me. Trust me, changing your sensitivity doesn't matter at all, but we'll get into that. But you want to use different sensitivities that train different parts of your aim, because that's exactly why you've probably aimed and you feel like sometimes you can aim so easily and others it's hard. Sometimes you'll be running out of mouse space, or your wrist can only move so much and then you get stuck, or your arm gets stuck to the mouse pad and you just can't keep up with a target. So practicing on different sensitivities will help you train that. Now, for the sensitivity thing, first of all, I've trained a lot of people's aim. And one of the biggest fears was always my sensitivity. I can't change it. I've developed this consistency, or I'm so comfortable with it, or I know it so well. Long story short, it's not real. None of that's real. And you might say, what do you mean it's not real? If you were supposed to catch a ball, right? Do you think it's a super valid excuse that, oh, because the glove I'm wearing is different, my brain shuts off, I can't catch it? Now, some people say, well, actually, yes, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't think of a better example, so you get the idea, though. It's silly to think all this practice you've done, or on a mouse pad, your mouse pad isn't consistent. If you sweat more one day, you're going to aim differently. If it's hot in your room, you're going to aim differently. All these things will cause different aim. So if aim was muscle memory, you would have to memorize how it feels with humidity level 10 in your room versus 5 and aim accordingly, which doesn't make any sense. And like we said, it's hand-eye coordination, not muscle memory. So when you change your sensitivities, you can train different things. And this can be done in-game or aim training. If you're using a fast sensitivity, so let's say if you go from a 1 to a 2 in Marvel Rivals, that's faster. The faster you go, the harder it is to be smooth and controlled with your aim, meaning that learning how to control it will train your smoothness and control. On the other hand, lowering your sensitivity, let's say from a 1 to a 0.5, will train your speed of your arm and how comfortable you are with playing different parts of your mouse pad. And you guys can manipulate your sensitivity anytime. And it's funny enough, this is a story I used to use. When I used to play on console, I had a friend, and him and I would play, and we always noticed that really, really good aimers on console had faster sensitivities usually. And I was like, why is that? I can't even control it. So what we would do, and obviously I don't know the number levels for Marvel Rivals, but I would just keep bumping it up over time. We would go from, let's say, if the highest sensitivity is a 10, and we normally play on a 5, I would play on a 6 for a week, learn how to control it, then play on a 7 for a week, or however long it takes, then an 8 for a week, until I could control the highest or close to the highest sensitivity. So then, when I went back down to a normal one, it felt like child's play. It felt like it couldn't get any easier. And the same thing applies for mouse and keyboard. You can force improvement in your aim, and people don't realize aim training and working out are very, very similar. And I used to be a fitness YouTuber, so yeah. I don't know if you guys are newer to this channel, you don't know the photos, but there you go. I think I put them up. I hope I remember to put them up. But yeah, I used to be a fitness YouTuber. And aim training is the exact same thing in different font. So as a wise man once said, Arnold, you got to shock the muscle. Shocking your aim will force improvement. Because if you've always played on, let's say, a 2 sensitivity, playing on a 4 for a week will make you want to quit the game, but in a good way, because by the time you go back to the 2, you're like, wow, this is easy. Everyone's moving in slow motion. And worst case scenario, you hate it, just switch back. Now, speaking of practice, I used to be a super nerd. Well, used to. I do YouTube videos now, so I play video games for a living, so I don't know if we could say used to. But when I was super nerding out, I used to love watching Andrew Huberman and this and that, and I used to look into studies. And one study that I found was the way you can use music and the way you can also use your sleep to force improvement and make yourself play better or learn skills quicker. So let me explain. First one, music. How can you use it? I think there's decent merit to using a sweat playlist or a try hard playlist or a playlist that you practice to. And the reason why I say this is there was a study back in the day that had a student that was studying for a test. And when they were studying for the test, they had them listen to music, and the control group didn't listen to music. And they found that the group that used music were able to recollect the information that they studied much better during the test than the group that didn't. And there's been a few other studies basically showing that music is almost like a drug. You can use it to even improve your mood and different things. And honestly, I've experienced this myself. If you guys don't know, I'm from New York, but you go try to listen to drill music and not be hype. Listen, it's impossible, right? It doesn't work. I be having to turn off the music when I drive because I just can't help myself but speed. And speeding in New York is like, yeah, you asking for a ticket or to go to jail. But it can get you in a mood. It can get you in a zone for practice. So try it out. If you don't like it, it's not a big deal. But give it a shot saying, okay, today I'm going to practice. I'm going to try to practice for like a week listening to this playlist. Then use that same playlist when you're trying to try harder, play better, and you'll see if it works for you. Now, how do you sleep? The sleep one I've been using for whenever I feel like a loser. And I just want to clarify, you don't have to change your sleep schedule for this, okay? When you practice something, our brains are like towers almost, and the tower will get stacked up over time. So you learn something, back to the top of the tower. And something new, top of the tower again. And the more you stack, the more that has to be unpacked. And your brain unpacks from top to bottom. So whenever you sleep, you have to unpack from the top, heading straight down. But it's not always a guarantee that you'll reach the bottom before you wake up or before your sleep is disrupted. And I've found, and studies have proven, that practicing a skill closer to bed will get you much better results than not. Now, when I say practice close to bed, I don't mean like, oh boy, let me aim train, let me practice, let me play Marvel. Oh, bedtime. Like, so let's be reasonable, okay? A few hours before, just pushing it to later in the night or trying to practice later in the night. There are benefits to this and downfalls to it. You could even take a nap. Some people have done that for studying. After you study something, studies have shown that if you take a nap, you will retain the knowledge much more for the exact reason I just mentioned. So you could even do the napping option. But the problem with doing it at night is also how much energy do you have by the end of the night to really practice properly? So use it here and there. Use it when you can so that you can get those extra gains whenever you have the chance. And speaking of sleeping, first of all, rest days are extremely important. Rest days are more important than everything else. If you don't take days off, if you don't take a week off here and there or whatever, you're not going to get results. Because if you've been practicing for 2 months straight and you haven't taken a breath yet, there's probably a reason why you might not be getting crazy results. So take a day off, take 2 days off. A training plan I like to do is like 4 days on and then like 2 days off and then starting it again. Or some people prefer like 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off. Treat it like working out. Just find something that will prevent you from getting hurt. Because aim is one of those skills that, in my opinion, volume is king. Meaning that the more you play, the more you get. With the caveat, don't injure yourself. If you injure yourself, you set yourself back a ton, and you might even do permanent damage. Now, I told you guys about the routine, but before I tell you about it, once again, if you guys like free stuff, go to the description, get Gosu Academy for a month free practice, free coaching, free VODs to study, and you can meet a lot of people to play with. And if you guys want that practice routine I was talking about, check out this video right here. I love you guys. Have a good one. God bless you.